the first of a series of conversations with Jeannie and Beck, which has really been inspired by a wonderful friendship that has been based around, hello Dash, based around wonderful emergences of truth and inspiration while the two of us have been having cups of tea over the last 5 or so years.
Yeah. And I'm Jeannie.
And I'm Beck.
So welcome to the first of what we perceive maybe many conversations where we just felt called to share what was sort of coming out in our conversations, and we go, oh my God, things that we didn't even weren't aware of until we had the conversation. And I suppose that's one of the things that we've often talked about is the beauty of being able to come together with no intent other than just being with each other at an energetic level and seeing what arises. And we've had some pretty magical moments doing that, haven't we?
So Jeannie and I, our background, Jeannie's been in nursing for many years and is a spiritual coach. I have been a channeler for about 20 years, so I do a bit of counselling with that and run workshops and things. But I've always found my conversations with Jeannie to be so invigorating and always really challenging what I believe. Because I think it's very typical of what we're going through at this particular time on the planet with all these changes, that it's very difficult to adhere to any particular belief system.
Yeah.
And actually I believe we shouldn't be
Yes.
adhering to any belief systems at this time, and we need to be open to the fact that they're constantly changing and evolving in how we perceive things, and in that the type of information that's available to us is changing all the time. So Jeannie's always been really the person that I go to when I'm looking at pushing my understandings to a different place, or allowing myself, I should say, to move to a different place with what I understand to be what's happening on the planet, what I understand to be what's changing with our perspectives of life. So because I find as a channeler myself these conversations so enlightening and so important for me, we'd really like to be able to share them with other people too.
Yeah, and I think, I reiterate that same experience for me is that, I think on our spiritual journey we can often be very comfortable with the beliefs that we get shown. And, often on our journey we find someone who really resonates with the truth at the moment. And, it's very natural to want to hold on to that truth. And I know for me, and I know for Beck, often life situations bring you into a place where you almost have to let go of all your beliefs. And
true.
For me, I'm trying to stay in that place of constantly just going, nothing's true and everything's true. So that to me is a constantly moving goalpost, in that I want to be constantly reminded when I'm stuck in a paradigm, which then just becomes another dogma and stops me from growing into a greater awareness.
Yeah. And actually one thing I find incredibly valuable about the conversations that we have is that if I'm in a difficult situation or I'm not quite sure how to approach something, I'll talk to you about it, but you won't ever give me a belief system around it. You'll say to me, we'll drop what you know about it and be comfortable with sitting in the what you don't know about it. And I think that's so important in terms of what people are doing in general, especially because belief systems are changing so much at the moment. And I know with the content that I'm channeling over the last 5 years is it keeps changing.
Yes.
So we really need to be able to be encouraging people to move to a space where the comfort that they're looking for comes from falling into the not knowing.
I totally agree. And I think another one of the things that we both really agree on is that it's time now for us to really bring ourselves back to knowing for ourselves. And that the only person that will 100% know for me is me. And when I don't know and I don't feel comfortable, it means that I'm not in a place of needing to know yet. And it's being comfortable in the uncomfortableness, because I think that's a place where we've always tried to fix and to get away from. And one of the beliefs that if you feel uncomfortable, there must be something wrong. And you know, definitely it creates change.
That's true. You know, talking about having to have answers to things. A lot of people approach me, as you know, all hours of the day and night, looking for answers to things. And I'm becoming clearer and clearer that giving people answers does not enable them to shift their perspective. And it does not enable them to move out of what they are experiencing. And I think fundamentally that is honouring that whatever someone's experiencing at this time is imperfection for them. And there's something for them to discover within that.
Yes.
So it's about not trying to move people away from the discomfort, as you're saying, but actually inviting them to completely dive into discomfort.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now that's problematic for a lot of people because everything that they've ever learned about what spirituality is, what metaphysics is, what changing your belief system is all about, is to take you away from your problem or your pain.
Absolutely.
And yet, in the eye of the storm is where you find your peace.
Yes.
It's where you find the answers.
Yes.
And it's where you remain in a place where, yes, you can still be experiencing all this stuff of humanity. You can still be witnessing all of this chaos, but you're experiencing it as the witness.
Yes.
Instead of the victim.
Yes. And for me, I think one of the great analogies that I've used for myself for a long time, and it came to me on my journey with breast cancer, which we've talked about before. And for me, when I was diagnosed, from day one, I was aware enough on my journey, as I was saying to Beck before, you know, I had been meditating for 20 years, eating organically, chemical-free as much as I could be, and fit, and as far as I was concerned, healthy. But it was the year of my greatest growth because I was doing a life coaching mentoring course that was really taking me into letting go of what I thought I believed about myself and the world. And so what then happened was that was the opportunity for me to go, you know what, this is a gift from day one. Because looking back at my life, the evidence was that the greatest struggles that I'd experienced were the periods where I had massive growth. And what I would used to do is look back and go, if that hadn't happened, I wouldn't be here with gratitude. And I wanted to experience the paradigm of having gratitude right from the start. And so I decided to call it a gift, which it became. And one analogy one day, because often we were talking before about, you know, goals and visions and this not having to know. And how does that sit together? And if you let go of all goals and visions, what will happen in your life? And I decided, I got given that challenge by my own divinity, was to let go of all goals and visions, other than how I knew I wanted to feel, how I knew I wanted to experience the moment. And so one of the things I started noticing is when I found myself in that place of struggle with something that was happening on this particular journey, I started just seeing that that struggle was only because I'd made a judgment. And that judgment came after an experience, either a feeling or a thought or a physical thing that was happening to me in that moment. So when I could then reverse it, and I started building this analogy of like a street, and we're going along a road and we hit a speed bump. And generally, as a human, you want to go, blooming speed bump, you know, get out the way, what are you doing? And then you find yourself in Judgment Street, and you go down there, and then you find yourself in Struggle Cul-de-sac. You go round and round and round and round and round, and all of a sudden you go, that's the way out. You get back on the road, everything's smooth again until the next speed bump. So from making the speed bump okay, I started going, okay, you know what, this feels like crap. I feel angry, I feel annoyed. And for the first time in my life, I started really allowing myself to be present and dive deep into those emotions.
So what you're saying is not trying to avoid the speed bumps?
Absolutely.
So you're
Bring
going
it on
into Judgment Street from trying to avoid them or
Absolutely.
trying to fix them?
Yeah,
or
trying to
even them out?
I'd made a decision that speed bump shouldn't be there. So I experienced struggle with it. So when I started then embracing life and going, okay, if this is meant to be happening to me and there is an opportunity here, I started asking the two questions. What is the gift in this for me and what is the truth in this for me? But not trying to know the answer. But just like asking myself, putting it out there, and then just having the experience of a speed bump. And so what I then started finding would happen would all of a sudden, the situation would transmute, and the situation would bring me a person that I needed to meet, or an awareness that I needed to have, that gave me a deeper perspective of my depth and my ability to navigate my road without having to keep going into the side streets.
And I think too, what people forget is that, you know, you might think you're going down this street on a scooter, and therefore your scooter's not equipped to deal with speed bumps. Not understanding that actually we're in a pretty awesome spacecraft.
Yeah.
That can really go at the speed you want to go, can skim over the top of things quite easily. And if you understand that you can actually still have an experience of them by observing them, rather than having to experience the impact of it,
Yes.
you will start to realise that you don't have to do it on a scooter.
Yeah.
But you can do it on something that means that you don't have to take leave from the situation.
Yeah.
When you think how many people struggle with life and want to leave the planet because they're sitting down there on the scooter getting the high impact. And I think the only way to get away from it is what you're talking about, is to try to move to a different place, a different location, or a different set of beliefs.
Yeah.
Whereas what they really can be doing is still experiencing that speed bump, but experiencing it from a different perspective where they can appreciate it, but not have the deep impact from it.
Yes.
And I think when you start to move from these speed bumps being about you and it being about your road, and my road is ineffective, not good enough, needs improving because it has bumps on it, rather than, isn't this fabulous the way the contours work in this road? It's a little bit like when you're going trekking and you're totally over mountains and ridges and you're exhausted. And oh God, here comes another mountain. And yet if you're flying over these mountains, they're magnificent to behold.
Yeah.
If you've got a view from space, they're even more spectacular in their perfection.
Yeah.
So it's all about not making it about you. This is where I'm sitting with it, and making it about, look at the features and inclusions and things that happen within human life.
And I think that is a really beautiful analogy, and I think it's what happens when you start taking the steps to journey that way is you still find yourself wanting to get away. You still find yourself, but then the observation becomes that you actually recognise that you're trying to do that a lot quicker.
Yes.
And so, you know, my personal perspective of that, which I know, you know, if you're having a personal perspective, it's also a collective opportunity. And so then what was happening was I'd wake up that I was in a judgment or a belief that this shouldn't be happening. And I started noticing the distance getting smaller. So I was going into shorter and shorter side streets until one day I started experiencing just the speed bump in all its glory and all its opportunity. And I think that has been the greatest gift for me, to arrive at a place where life's challenges can come and hit me in the face, but they don't knock me now. I can experience them and I can have them and I can be fully present to them. However, they then become a part of the wholeness of who I am.
And if we actually take the analogy of what we're talking about with the speed bumps and make that mountains as well, where does that sit in terms of what people believe about how they create their reality? Because sometimes where people, I think, get quite stuck in this, I think this was useful for a time on the planet.
Yes.
But people get so stuck in the, I have caused these speed bumps and mountains.
Yes.
And therefore, if they're not supposed to be there, and therefore there's something wrong with me that I need to address.
Absolutely.
And yet if you're flying above a mountain range, you don't believe that you are responsible for the creation of those mountains. You just see them as aspects of life on this planet.
Yes.
And so it completely removes the personal responsibility.
Yes.
And I think as soon as you remove personal responsibility, it becomes easier to move out of judgment in the experience. Because you can start, and this is what Eckhart Tolle talks about in Power of Now. This is my understanding. What I got out of that book many years ago was that when you start to remove yourself from the picture, it becomes about there is a mountain here, rather than I have a mountain to deal with.
Yeah. And it's so true, because ultimately, you know, that's one of the questions in the last 6 months that I've really been looking at. You know, we hear these words, I create my reality. For me, what that meant when I was diagnosed 8 years ago is very different to what it means now. And to me, what it means now is that, yeah, I create my reality. Well, who is the I? And previously, I would relate it to my humanness and the old story of karma and cycles and stuff. And okay, well, that's obviously something I need. Whereas now, the I is the wholeness. It's the oneness. It's the unity that is having that experience. And so now that enables me now to let go of needing to know, because what I know is that the oneness of me is bringing this physical vessel, this experience. And I can 100% trust that oneness to only bring to me what I need in the moment. And therefore, I don't have to know what do I need to be working in, what do I need to be doing, who do I need to be speaking to, because if you don't know, but you trust and surrender into that deepest truth that we are one, that we are love, that we are here to have an incredible time on this planet, then life just appears.
And it's far more interesting.
It is, because it's like every day is a new adventure.
Going on a joy flight over a mountain range is not as interesting if you're the pilot, because you know exactly where you're going.
I love the analogy.
You know what the map is. It's all about the planning and the execution.
Yes.
And so many humans treat life with a planning and execution perspective.
Yes.
Which takes all the joy out of it.
Yes.
Now, if you're sitting in the back of that plane and you're a tourist, you don't know which route the plane's going to go. You don't know what's going to appear around the corner of that mountaintop. And it's fascinating. And it's exciting because you don't have an expectation about what you're going to see. You don't have a plan in mind. And you're not trying to execute it perfectly. That's not your job. Your job's just there to watch it and experience it. And I think the more that humanity can start to become tourists on this planet, the more satisfactory life is going to be.
Absolutely. And I think it is that is a new way of looking at things, and that is the new perspective. And I think that comes about the human experience of yourself as well, is that, you know, the old way was that we were letting go of fear, and we were getting rid of this, and we had to let go of that. We'd need to do another course or go and, you know, there was always something we had to fix about ourselves. And to me, it's the same sort of thing. When we can make all aspects of ourself okay, as in the light and the shadow, then our experience of ourselves is in wholeness. And, you know, you only have to, especially women, I feel, you know, we only have to look in the mirror and we want to have a story about how we look, or that bit of cellulite, or that bit of that. And we're only going to be okay when we've dealt with that. And the opportunity is to actually bring it back and know that all of us is okay. And it's okay when we have a story about the bits we perceive. It's like making even the human thought about imperfection, making the judgment okay, making the disharmony, making the fear, making that all okay, to just be able to be physically within the body rather than trying to get rid of it. And then you have constantly having experience of it trying to get your attention, because really everything's within us. So we're trying to shift it out.
Yeah. And how hard is it to shift a mountain?
Exactly.
I'm sorry, I don't want a mountain in my view.
Yes.
Good luck trying to move that.
Yeah.
So there's no need for fixing.
No.
There's just a need to step back and be the witness.
Yeah.
And see the beauty in every situation.
Yeah. And that's what we were talking before, is present each of those thoughts. Present it with love. And just, there's that thought that makes me feel guilty. Oh, I'm going to sit with it and be love. rather than there I go again, judging myself, and then wanting to have a story, there I go again, judging myself or judging others, and then we constantly come back to that place where we then feel guilty about the way we're being in the world or the way we're perceiving other people. And, you know, judgment is such a powerful tool in this experience of life. You know, it does keep duality here. So the only way we're going to experience what we're striving to, we think we're trying to experience, which is really a place of feeling.
Well, it's our natural state, actually. So even in saying
Yes.
we're striving to experience our natural state, there's something quite comical about that.
Yeah, exactly. It's a belief that we aren't what we are.
Like, I'm trying to be alive.
Yes. and but you know what? I think that's the big, you know, the big joke, isn't it? Really.
Yeah.
That, and you know, it's nothing new. You know, mystics for years and years, for eons, have always said, you know, that you end up at the place you began. And let's just hang out there.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, thank you for joining us, Jeannie and Beck, for our first conversation. We invite comments, contributions, suggestions, and hope that you'll join us for future conversations. Thank you.
Thank you, and have a wonderful